swing and a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Jean.
You are listening to the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. It is season 4, episode 65. The Kyle Tucker question, Crawly. That's what we're going to address to start off with. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe. Most importantly, review the podcast. Follow on all the social medias. I'm at Mullion on X.
And you can follow me at Crawly's Clubhouse on X, Blue Sky, TikTok, Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. And you can email us with your questions or thoughts about Kyle Tucker or any other topics that we talk about at crawlyscubs@gmail.com. Dustin, looks like everybody's partying in Vegas, huh?
Yep, there's some general manager meetings going on out there, award ceremonies going on out there. Our guy Bruce Levine is out there, and they're going to kind of drop an award every couple of days here, and then Thursday they're going to do a big show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, you know, when you get into the GM meetings, and that's when everyone kind of starts to lay the groundwork for all these players that are hitting free agencies. But there are still a couple other things that we got to kind of figure out. We talked about how the day after the World Series ends, free agency begins, right? And so the teams have 5 days to exclusively negotiate with any free agents that are on the team. Now, also players and teams have 5 days to decide on these opt-ins or opt-outs. And then when you have a free agent, Dustin, a team has to decide whether or not you are going to give that qualifying offer, right? And the qualifying offer is kind of interesting to me. So the qualifying offer is a 1-year contract valued at the average salary of the 125 highest players in the MLB, okay? So for the 2025-26 season, that value is $22 million. So if someone asks, well, why don't you give a qualifying offer to Brad Keller? Well, because you don't want Brad Keller to make $22 million. He's not worth it, right? But when you look at some of these other players, this year, Dustin, there were 13 players that were tendered a qualifying offer. So 13 players are going to get this offer. And this is where, you know, all this stuff kind of just gets really interesting as far as who gets the qualifying offer, who doesn't, who are you going to give it to. So this year, you can take a look and see right here some of the players that got the qualifying offer. So you got guys like Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, Framber Valdez, Dylan Cease, Ranger Suarez, Zach Gallen, Shota Imanaga, Michael King, Trent Grisham, Gleyber Torres, and Brandon Woodruff, right? And so some of these guys, you know, are not going to take the $22 million. Like Kyle Tucker is not taking a 1-year, $22 million deal.
Correct. We know that for sure.
Right. We don't even have to think about that. Bo Bichette, those type of things, you know, yeah, that is one of those things that you're not going to do. But the interesting one right here is, you know, when you look at it, since you've had this idea of qualifying offers, it's not really taken that often, right? So since it was implemented in 2012, 144 players, including 13 in 2025, have received one. But since that time frame, Dustin, only 14 have accepted it. So players have until 3 p.m. on November 18th. So we got what, about a week? So about a week for a decision to get made. Now, the Cubs offered 2 of their free agents qualifying offers. You got Shota Imanaga and Kyle Tucker are extended qualifying offers. Now, we know that Kyle Tucker, like we said, is not going to take it, but Shota Imanaga, maybe.
Well, I'm more surprised that it got like. I mean, don't you think? Didn't we have one of these like recently where we think the Cubs are like, oh damn, they took it, right? Like, I mean, I'm thinking they're hoping that he does not do this, right? That he decides that there are greener pastures somewhere else.
Right. Cody Bellinger was the one where it was like kind of the opt-in and there was some nerves about that. But, you know, Jed is out in Vegas right now and he was asked about Shota Imanaga, and this is kind of fresh audio. Here is what the Cubs president of baseball operations had to say about Shota.
Ultimately, it was just we obviously value Shota a ton. I think he was amazing for us as a pitcher, as a teammate, and I don't want to close that door completely by any stretch. But ultimately, we didn't think that the club option was right value. He didn't think that the player option was right value, and that happens. And so, clearly we made him a qualifying offer, and there's nothing that prohibits us from still talking to him. So I don't want to close that door. But obviously, like I said, like the way that we value the club option, the way he valued the player option, obviously we didn't meet up there.
Now, Shota was set to make $15 million.
I get why we played that audio, but it's like the fact that he's such a good teammate and all that. I mean, it would have been breaking news if he had said anything to the contrary, right? Anything.
Right. And he was set to make $15 million this year, but then he also had additional money that he was going to make after. So unless he signs a multi-year deal with some team, like you're talking about greener pastures, I think there's a good chance, Dustin, he might take the $22 million.
Right. So do I don't think the Cubs want that. Right. I think this is almost something that I wouldn't be surprised gets negotiated out. I don't think owners want this. It doesn't seem like something they would want.
I think what they
want. Do you agree
with
me? Do you agree? I mean, this seems something very advantageous to the player. And I don't think, why are the Cubs that, this part of it way better than I do. Are the Cubs this desperate for a draft pick that they're willing to roll the dice on $22 million for Shota Imanaga so they can get a draft pick?
Well, here's the thing.
Can't they just not offer him anything?
Yes, they could have not offered him. Yes, they could have not offered him a qualifying offer.
Well, I just don't understand. I mean, I would not have offered him a qualifying offer. Would you have offered him a qualifying offer?
It depends on what they think was wrong and what they think they can fix. Now, you saw last year.
You better hope based on what you just said then, Crawly.
Right.
You better the hell hope you can fix it.
I think they trust Tommy Hotovy in their pitching infrastructure.
I know they trust him. Right. I know they trust Tommy Hotovy. The question is, they better know damn well that they can't fix this, because otherwise that's a hell of a roll of the dice. That's a hell of a trip to the craps table.
I don't think it breaks the bank. I don't think it affects.
Well, no, of course, it doesn't break
much
the
of
bank,
anything what they're going to do. And it's 1 year. It's 1 year. So you're actually going to save more money in the long run by getting rid of the back end of that deal than you are there. And we saw Dustin last season. All of a sudden, you start losing pitching. Think about if Cade Horton didn't have the Cade Horton season. Imagine if Cade Horton had more of like a Ben Brown type season. We're not talking playoffs, right? It was a gift from the baseball gods that Cade Horton was as brilliant as he was, or they wouldn't have even sniffed the playoffs, Dustin. So I think that that pitching goes down, and you always could use a few more pitchers, right? To me, I just think that see what happens with Shota, and there's a lot of ways this can play out. If he leaves, he doesn't take the qualifying offer, then you get the draft pick. If he does, you just get insurance for the year with a guy that's really popular. There's a lot of Japanese players that we're going to talk about next time that just got posted. So you got a guy that's going to be there that could maybe make that transition easier if the Cubs decide to go that route. So there's a lot of different benefits that you can get from giving Shota. So I don't like I said, if I thought that $22 million would prevent them from getting Dylan Cease, then I'd be more upset. I don't think that should be the case.
All right. I'm going to take your word for it, man. Cause it's driving me nuts that you are willing to give a guy $22 million next year that you were not willing to start in a postseason game when he seemed perfectly healthy, as far as we know.
But again, take a look at again, he's going to just get older, but in general, he pitched really well until he got to the end of the year.
Right. Sure. Right. But guess what? Isn't that when it matters the most?
Right. But if you could sit there and still get good starts out of him, I mean, did you think Colin Ray, did you think you were going to get that much out of Colin Ray?
No, but they've rewarded Colin Ray. We're probably going to talk about that tonight, right? I mean, they're rewarding Colin Ray, but again, Colin Ray is going to get $7 million. That's 1/3 of $22 million. I mean, I'm just saying, it's a big difference. Colin Ray pitched in the playoffs in a high leverage situation that they were not willing to let him pitch in. The way I understand, the way I read it.
Right. Well, Dustin, we don't know for sure, like you said, if they want to keep him, if they don't. The one, but the big one, and the one we really, title of this episode here is Kyle Tucker. right?
Kyle Tucker question. The Kyle
How-
Tucker question. Yes.
How bad do they want him? Now, Jim Bowden has put out his annual top 50 free agents, which includes salary comps, which teams would be the best fit. And he predicts, what type of contract each player will probably get. Now, we're going to dive deeper into this list as the offseason moves on. But right now, we just want to focus on Tucker, right? Tucker, a man in his dreams. So Bowden has Kyle Tucker as his number one free agent of the 2025 class. You agree with that?
I guess.
Not the strongest class.
I guess if he's not hurt.
Okay. So, Jet Boyer.
Do you agree with it?
Yeah, I do think he's the best guy that's out there this year. Now, as far as how do you evaluate what Kyle Tucker, another big free agent, I don't think is coming here. But, as far as, Kyle Tucker and evaluating him, this is what Jed had to say at the end of the year.
We were at our best. Kyle was at his best, and vice versa. There's no question he had a huge impact on this team. Obviously, he had dealt with some injuries and struggled a bit in the second half. But I think when you take the totality of the season, he had a huge impact as we hoped he would. Obviously now we're sort of into free agency, and we'll be talking to Casey, and we'll be having those conversations. And so, like I said a bunch of times during the season, like everyone can use a guy like Kyle Tucker. Everyone gets better by having a player like that, and we'll certainly be having those conversations.
So when you look at Kyle's season, you have to look at before and after the injuries began to pile up, right? So from opening day, Dustin, on March 18th in Japan, all the way to June 1st when the hand injury occurred, Tucker was slashing 284, 394, 524 with 12 home runs, 39 RBIs, 16 stolen bases with 40 walks to 32 strikeouts. That's pretty damn good. And Dustin, I think what Jed says there and what you and I talked about during the season is it seemed like, especially in that first half, he made everyone around him better.
Oh, listen, the first half of the season, Crawly, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It was like a drinking game at the score. If you talk about Kyle Tucker extending that lineup, right? That was the big thing. Extending the lineup.
Right. But then on June 1st, Tucker jammed his right ring finger, sliding into second against the Reds. Taken out of the game, the x-rays were negative, but imaging picked up a small fracture near his ring and pinky fingers. After the injury, he has that injury from that point in time on June 1st until he was benched on August 19th in a series against the Brewers of all teams. Remember he was getting booed?
Oh, yeah.
He slashed 239, 356, 374. I mean, when you look at those numbers, Dustin, like the power number drops in half almost in half. He had 6 home runs, 23 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, 39 walks to 45 strikeouts. The Cubs as a team were 36-22, 14 games over 500, 611 winning percentage, and were in first place in the NL Century before the injury. After the injury, 34-32 at the time of Tuck's benching, 2 games over 500, and the Brewers took over the lead in NL Central and looked back. Now, after the benching, Kyle Tucker had a little bounce back. Remember out in Anaheim, he kind of got heated up and everything, but then he went on the IL from September 9th and was there until the 26th and was pretty ineffective in the postseason. And so, Dustin, again, when he was their best, they were a team that had a high winning percentage when he was healthy. When not, they were a 500 team. So what kind of team would they be without him? Say like this year, if everything all stayed the same, are they a 500 team without Kyle Tucker in the lineup?
That's tough, right? That's tough. I don't. Probably not, right? Probably not. I mean, if you lose the guy, listen, if you do lose the guy, you got to replace him. And then the question becomes, is Owen Casey enough, right? Is Owen Casey enough to be that guy?
Right. And so here's what Jed had to say about that decision.
You have to evaluate. You have to start everything that we do with an evaluation of the player and focus on that valuation, and then what's that worth to the organization. I think that's the backbone. I think that in my career, I think when you make decisions that are based on your valuation and how you value the player, then it sort of takes some of that, the other stuff out of it, and you make better decisions. I think if you're reacting to how things are going around you, I think that's when you can make real mistakes. So to me, it's just, that's going to be our focus, is, how do we value, and it's not just Kyle, it's any player, like, what's the valuation we put on this player? How much is he worth to this organization right now? And I think that if you do that consistently, I think you end up, like I said, making more and more good decisions. And the more good decisions we make, the more it's additive.
For me, Dustin, I've never seen Jed roll the big dice like Theo. You know what I mean? Just take a swing at it, right? He always seems to be cautious. And so how do you evaluate Kyle Tucker? What's he worth? Well, Jim Bowden of The Athletic has a valuation based on other contracts. And this is what Jim Bowden sees happening. Ready? 10 years, $427 million. Thoughts?
Well, it's a lot less than the 500. It's about 50 more million than I would want to give him, to be honest. And I wouldn't give him anything like that without the CBA being more rock solid.
You're not getting that. So you're doing 10 years, 427, or he's walking out the door. There's no going to be no 1 year deal on that.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Crawly, I also personally, I obviously I don't have it on any authority, just how I personally feel. I don't think he wants to be here. Now, 450 million, okay, I'll suck it up, right? Oh, I'll suck it up for 450. But I think he wants to go back to Houston. I think he'd love to go out to LA and just be a guy out there at 450 million.
Like you're talking about like a number 2 or 3 guy.
Right. I don't think he wants to be the man. I don't think he wants to be a number 1. I just don't.
And those are, the right now the odds are looking at like the Dodgers, of course, where he wouldn't be the man, and the Yankees, of course, where he wouldn't be the man. And I've even heard Toronto possibly now. Okay. So, definitely.
Where the hell do they get all their money? I mean, did they get the whole continent flushing money into them? Seriously, I mean, where is all that money coming from?
Well, Dustin, again, it's a matter of how much, and I think I heard Mully talking about it this morning, how much you're willing to spend as an organization based on how much revenue you bring in. And some owners are much more willing to spend that money. This is definitely a topic we're going to discuss this offseason as far as, the Cubs and the amount that's being spent. And we talked about this last offseason, whether it was Rosenthal, whether it was John Heyman, whether it was whoever criticizing the spending habits of the Cubs. And it's already started up this offseason. So this narrative is not going to go away. And if they let Kyle Tucker walk, I disagree. I think if the Cubs make a very, again, I'm not saying a middling offer, but if they're as competitive as everyone else, I think he might want to stay in Chicago. So, but again,
why do you say that? What makes you believe he would want to stay here? What indications? What did you see that maybe I didn't or somebody else didn't?
I would say that I believe he liked playing here more. Again, he's not the type of guy that he's not like a PCA or a Jameson Tyone, guys that are just going to sit there and wax poetic and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about and be. He's just kind of a dull guy. You know what I mean? He's just not that interesting. But again, I believe he liked the atmosphere. I think he liked the facilities. I think that he would like, if he is in a competitive deal, I just don't think he's out the door like you said. I think that he would consider staying if the right offer is made. But again, Dustin, what a lot of these players, what you talk about is, what is your commitment to winning? And if you don't, and if these guys don't feel like you're going to commit to winning, why would they want to stick around?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with what you're saying there, Crawly. I can't. It's a great title for the episode, though. I mean, it is a big question, because if you do let him walk, you've got to be willing to replace him. And then the question is, how is that going to be? We'll get into that more as we move along. This is season 4, episode 65 of the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. 5-star reviews, we'll take them. You can email us, crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can watch us on the Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page, as some of you might be right now. This last weekend, the Arizona Fall League held their Fall Star Game. Friend of the podcast, Rich Biesterfeld, joined Crawly to talk about how the young Cubs performed against some of MLB's best talent. This is episode 65 of season number 4 of the Fly the W podcast, the Kyle Tucker question. We are part of the Blue Wire group, and we ask you to listen. We ask you to download. We ask you to review. We ask you to subscribe. We ask you for a 5-star review. You can also email us, Crawly's Clubhouse, gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on the Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. Crawly, it is a award season. Team Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, Rookie of the Year voting, Platinum Glove voting. And the Cubs have already won some of these awards and have had some awards not go all their way.
Yeah. And so they're doing this in Vegas, and they're kind of slow leaking all of this stuff as it goes out. One award that they did win was the Team Gold Glove, Team of the Year for the National League. And Texas won as well for the American League. And those of you that listen to the Fly the W podcast, when we do the tail of the tape, the Cubs were number 2 all year in defensive runs saved, and Texas, who won on the AL side, was number 1 the entire year. So when you take a look at it here, the Cubs had 3 players that won in the National League Gold Gloves. You had Nico Horner, Pete Crow Armstrong, and Ian Happ all win Gold Gloves. So, and they also had another 3 guys that were nominated: Carson Kelly, Matthew Boyd, and Matt Shaw. So no surprise there. You know, Dustin, though, the thing that was surprising to me is that the Cubs, the first year that they ever had a Team Gold Glove was 2020, and the Cubs won that award. That was the last time they won it. And I went and I looked back, and I'm like, really? Like, I'm trying to remember, like, was 2020 that great of a defensive team? Wilson Contreras, Rizzo, Jason Kipnis at second, Javi at short, Bryant at third, Schwarber was still in left, Ian Happ center, Hayward right. I guess it was a pretty good team defensively, but I guess, I don't know, I was just a little bit surprised. So that was exciting. Now, when you talk about it, Tex was, like I said, number 1, DRS, Cubs number 2, but the Cubs were first in all of baseball and outs above average. So clearly one of the best defensive teams. And that's helped them when that offense went to sleep in the second half, was pitching and defense.
Pitching and defense. Absolutely right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, we just talked about Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker wins. Well, the Cubs had 3 guys nominated for Silver Sluggers. You had Nico Horner, PCA, and Kyle Tucker. And Kyle Tucker wins the award, the Silver Slugger. He's the first Cub to win the Silver Slugger since Cody Bellinger won it as a utility player in 2023, playing center and playing first. He was the first Cub outfielder to win it since. You got a guess?
Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Sosa, 2002, 6 times. And do you know who the first ever Cubs Silver Slugger was? This I thought was interesting.
First ever. Well,
outfielder.
How far back are we going?
1982.
1982 Cubs Silver Slugger. All right, I need some help.
He played first base in 1984.
So Leon Durham.
Leon Durham was the first Cub Gold.
I don't even think
Slugger.
of him. I don't even think of him as an outfielder.
Right, because you remember you had Billy Buck that was then playing first base. So,
right.
You know, there's a couple other awards that are going to be given out this year, or out this week. You have Rookie of the Year, which was last night. Manager of the Year, you have 2 NL Central teams when you have Pat Murphy, and of course, you know, just such a great job by Tito Francona. And then you got Cy Young and the MVP, which is going to be interesting. I still think it's a 2-man race between Ohtani and Juan Soto. You got to pick on, I don't think it's going to be Kyle Schwarber. You got to pick on one of those 2.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't Ohtani. I mean,
right. You know, you got him pitching.
It'd blow my doors off if it wasn't him.
You think Skeens takes the Cy Young or Yamamoto?
I think Skeens.
Yeah. Now, the guy that did not get it that we were disappointed about, Cade Horton was one of the finalists last night. Drake Baldwin, Caleb Durbin, Cade Horton, all up for it. And boy, Dustin, was it disappointing for me to see that Cade Horton did not get it. He finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting. And, you know, I was watching. And I just got to say, when I was watching it, it was frustrating because I get it. I'm not going to say Drake Baldwin wasn't worthy. He definitely was worthy.
He was worthy. He was worthy. He was worthy. Hard to argue. Hard to really get. I mean, listen, we're Cub fans, right? We do the Fly the W podcast. You're a season ticket holder. I was a season ticket holder, but it's hard to argue with a position player. And the one thing about him, Crawly, is he barely struck out.
Yeah, I mean, he worked well with the staff. He did consistent all year. Cade Horton didn't play all year. Cade Horton really picked it up in the second half, where Drake Baldwin was consistently good all year. I don't have a problem with that. And he even Cade picked up some first place votes as well. Totally cool. Great. Right. Here's the problem though, Dustin. Here's the problem that fans may not understand. Even though Cade Horton was called up to MLB, wasn't called up until May. This is from my guy, Arizona Phil, and the Cubs reporter. Cade Horton gets credit for a full year of MLB service time.
Yep. So his clock is moving.
Yep.
Also got a $500,000 bonus.
Correct. So presuming he is an option to the minors any time from 2026 to 2030, which we pretty much are not going, that would mean something was terribly wrong. He'll qualify for free agency post 2030 instead of post 2031. So we'll see what happens, but definitely frustrating. What was also frustrating, Dustin, is that the Platinum Glove Award was given out, and it was given out to this joker, Fernando Tatis Jr., who got busted for steroids before, and just, I don't know. I was so frustrated because here's the thing. We talked about this on the podcast before. The Platinum Glove is fan voted, but also sabermetrics. They kind of put a little bit of sabermetrics in, but it's the higher percentage is lean towards fan vote. And so Cub fans are just, the Chicago Cubs got the greatest fans, they do, but I think they dropped the ball on this. Maybe everyone's just so excited about the Bears that they just kind of are not Cub centric, like maybe you and me, maybe. But Tatis ranked 37th in baseball with 8 outs above average, while PCA was tied with Bobby Witt Jr., who won the Platinum Glove in the AL side with 24 outs above average. So PCA was 3 times better when you talk about outs above average. When you talk about StatCast's run prevented metric, he led all of baseball with 22, while Tatis was 31st with 7. The only thing that they were close in was defensive run save. They both had 15th, which was 9th in baseball. But to think that Fernando Tatis Jr. is a better defender than PCA is rubbish, and I'm frustrated about that. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's kind of, I didn't even take it as it's hot garbage is what it is. It's just not. It's not good. It's not a good look. Not even a little bit. So that is for I have way more of an opinion on that than I do of Cade Horton finishing second in the Rookie of the Year. How about Colin Ray's extension? Mentioned it a little earlier in the podcast.
Yeah, how about Colin Ray? He really kind of stepped up. When the Cubs had some injuries to Justin Steele, they extended him for a 1-year, $6.5 million contract for 2026 with a club option for 2027. So the deal includes a $5.5 million salary for 26 and $7.5 million club option for 2027 with your favorite, Dustin, a $1 million buyout. Mm-hmm. So, this just goes along with what Jed's doing, setting everything up for 2026, and then everybody's off the books in 2027. So definitely, like I said, well-earned. He really did a great job. And so we'll see what happens in the end.
Kyle Hendricks now officially hanging it up. I mean, we've had multiple reports on this since about day before the playoffs even started that he was done.
This has been ongoing, but everybody's putting it up there. After 12 season, Kyle Hendricks is retiring, and obviously 11 of those seasons were with the Cubs. And when you think about it, it was funny. He wasn't even supposed to come to the Cubs. They were trying to trade Ryan Dempster, and Dempster exercised his 10-5 rights. And then they ended up getting Kyle Hendricks from, was it the Rangers, I believe. And when you think about what he did, just the consistency, his 2016, Dustin, winning the ERA title, being on the mound in Game 6 of the NLC Championship game, which I will argue was the greatest game ever played in Wrigley Field. I will argue that as far as importance, as far as performance, I want to say they went 27 up, 27 down between him and Aroldis Chapman. It wasn't a no-hitter, but they had a pickoff in there. There was double plays. And so they faced the minimum. Obviously, he didn't win game 3, but it was a pitcher's duel. It was a phenomenal pitcher's duel that Kyle Hendricks had in World Series game 3. And then, obviously we don't forget that he was the starter in game 7 and pitched really, really well in game 7. So this was a guy that pitched with ice in his veins, was, again, very similar to Kyle Tucker when you talk about it, very kind of dry, very kind of matter of fact. But when we talk about the professor and when we talk about what he did for this team, just obviously a Cub Hall of Famer, I think, in the future. And it wouldn't surprise me, Dustin, if he did similar to what Rizzo did when you do the contract to retire a Cub and hopefully be honored next year.
Yeah, I echo all those sentiments with you. We agree on this one wholeheartedly. I mean, if you don't like Kyle Hendricks, you don't like the Cubs, and you don't like baseball. Crawly, are we going to tease this, or are we going to get into the Cubs spring training calendar?
Oh, Dustin, I don't know. I'm so super excited. The calendar was released, and, it's one of my favorite days.
Cubs and White Sox are opening things up, right?
Cubs and White Sox to kick it off, and if you know anything about spring training, the opening weekend is like a Mardi Gras party. That is a wild weekend. And I think that's the same weekend that Dempster's having his innings fest in Arizona. So it is a great time to go there. A couple other things to take a look at the calendar. If you take a look in the first week of March, you see that Tuesday game, they're playing Team Italy. We have the World Baseball Classic back. And so that Team Italy game, I think, is going to be one that's going to be kind of exciting for fans to go to. The 3rd. I wonder if Anthony Rizzo can play in that one. The other thing that's going to be kind of interesting is the last week of the spring training, which is not usually when I go. I don't like going there because you don't get to see a lot of the young players as much, but this is going to be different. You got a split squad game coming up there at the end there, but then you have the spring breakout game, which is going to be that Saturday, the 21st, which is when they have all the best prospects there. Then they got a game against Milwaukee. Milwaukee is not in the Cactus League. So that is a rare appearance by Milwaukee. They must be starting their season on the West Coast, because usually that's what teams will do, is they'll hop in and they'll play a game and then hop over to their destination. And then they close out with 2 against the Yankees. So I'm looking at this, and I'm not kidding, Dustin. I may end up I'm looking at either this week, the first week right there, where they're playing Arizona that Thursday, the first week, Arizona, San Diego, and then Athletics in San Francisco and Sloan, or I might try to catch that split squad spring training breakout, Milwaukee, Yankees. I think that would be pretty cool to see as well.
Yeah, very. It's always exciting to look at those kind of schedules, Crawley's. Get you, especially since we've had a little bit of snow around town. And, the wind has been whipping and it feels every bit of 25 degrees out there. So always cool to have something to look forward to. Plenty of stuff to look forward to on the Fly the W podcast. Everything that happens, we'll get right back to you guys. We'll be spitting out at least 1 or 2 of these a week all through the off season as well. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. You can email us your thoughts and your questions at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And you can watch us by subscribing to the Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube channel. Crawley, I'm sure next time we're with everybody, we'll have some audio from these GM meetings out in Vegas to share.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully Jed's out there cooking. Go Cubs!
It's all over. It's all over.